Answer the phone, please. Mr. Lee's office is in the City of London. It's not far from Tower Bridge. It's on the 5th floor of a modern building. On Friday morning, Mr. Lee wasn't in his office. He was in another architect's office. Only his secretary and his typist were in his office. They weren't working because Mr. Lee, their boss, wasn't in. The typist was sitting at a small table. There was a typewriter on the table, but she wasn't typing. She was cutting her nails. There were 2 large windows in the room. The sun was shining and the sky was blue. The windows were open. Between the windows there was a bookcase with a lot of books. The secretary was standing near the books. He was holding a book in his hand, but he wasn't reading. He was looking out of the window. After a few minutes, the secretary put the book back and went to his desk. He sat down and put his feet on the desk. He took a newspaper from the desk and began to read. The typist stopped cutting her nails, looked at her fingers, and got up. She went to the window and looked out. The secretary was reading and the typist was looking out of the window when the telephone rang. The telephone was on his desk, but he didn't stop reading, and he didn't lift the receiver. The telephone was ringing, she was looking out of the window, and he was reading. Nothing happened. At last he said to her, "Answer the phone, please." She didn't even turn round. "It's on your desk," she said sleepily. He asked her again to answer the phone. "I must read this newspaper," he said. "Oh, must you really?" she said. "All right." She went to the phone and lifted the receiver.
Stanley Dixon speaking.
2567455.
This is Stanley Dixon speaking. Can I speak to Mr. Lee, please?
I'm afraid he isn't in just now.
When can I find him?
What was the name?
Dixon. Dickson. Stanley Dixon.
Hold on a minute, please. Mr. Dixon wants to speak to Mr. Lee.
Dixon? Do you know him?
No, I don't.
Give it to me.
Hello, here's his secretary.
Hello? Is that Mr. Lee's secretary?
Speaking. Can I take a message?
Well, I'd like to speak to Mr. Lee. This is personal.
Shall I tell him to ring you back?
I'm afraid he can't. I'm not on the phone. I was working at Mr. Lee's house about a month ago. I was his gardener. How can I get in touch with him?
Try 4562039, extension 86. Or give him a ring in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Shall I tell him that you rang?
Yes, please.
All right, Mr. Dixon.
Thank you. Goodbye.